What are the emotions people experience most often? I think anger, rage, and resentment. I think there's a lot more of that than we acknowledge. Now, often unacknowledged, experienced but not acknowledged, for fear of consequences. I think also love, that we also are often afraid to acknowledge because it's so vulnerable. And we might say, if I want you to love me, but I'm afraid to be vulnerable, then I may try to impress you, which may be the closest thing I can get so that you'll pay attention to me. You know, so that emotions, shame, I think, is very frequent for a lot of people. That has to do with trauma more than anything else. Fear is something that people experience a lot, much more than they can admit to themselves. Joy, people are not so afraid of it. Well, you know what? There might be. Joy has been very difficult for me in my life, and I think some part of me used to say, what right do I have to feel joy when there's so much suffering in the world? Now that's logically a good question, but it's a nonsensical question.
Why?
Because there is a lot of suffering in the world, and there's a lot of joy in the world, and one doesn't negate the other. So for me, it was like, what right do I have to experience joy when my grandparents died in Auschwitz? I quote this in The Myth of Normal. My friend and colleague and teacher, Bessel van der Kolk, the psychiatrist who wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score, he said to me once, Gabor, you don't have to drag Auschwitz around with you all the time. Which means that you don't have to allow, not to forget about Auschwitz, but not to let that control your consciousness. Which means you do have the right to feel joy. You do have the right to be happy, even as the world suffers. Not because the world suffers, and not ignoring the suffering in the world, but there's no contradiction.
I think the one thing I've learned in my research above all else is that in the absence of love and belonging, there's always suffering. So when I hear about your experiences growing up, that's suffering.
Yeah.
You know, that's real suffering. And for me, not making the drill team when I was, I think it was in 8th grade, by itself is not a lot, but how my family responded to it. It was like when things changed for me and I didn't feel like I belonged to my family anymore. So I think that I still am trying to figure it out. I don't know that I've interviewed anyone, even spiritual leaders, who have the belonging thing completely nailed, because I don't think it is what we think it is. You know, I don't think that it's having a big posse of friends or having a crew or rolling with a bunch of people. I think I'm still trying to figure it out because I still feel lonely and alone and on the outside of things on a really regular basis.
You're going to have pain one way or the other.
Yes.
Which pain would you like? Because sometimes in life there's no pain-free options. You can have the pain of suppressing yourself for the sake of being accepted, or you can have the pain sometimes of being yourself and not being accepted. You can have pain one way or the other. Now I have my own bias that the pain of not being ourselves ultimately is by far the greater and the more chronic pain, and that the pain, the short-term pain of being ourselves, brings liberation and genuine independence, which means I can have genuinely independent relationships with other people who are willing to accept me as independent. You know, but in the short term, which pain do you want? Not, there's no pain-free option. You know.
Yeah.
I'm severely introverted.
Yes.
Super private. And so I love that connection between me and an audience, but it can also be hard on me. And also, I'm talking about things that no one, it's weird to me that people sign up to talk about them, but they're hard topics sometimes. And we laugh and we have fun and we'll sing. But I think what I've learned in doing the research on belonging is that belonging is being a part of something bigger than yourself. But it's also the courage to stand alone and to belong to yourself above all else. And so I think I spend a lot of time belonging to myself, and sometimes that makes other people uncomfortable. And so I think that's hard. I think I do feel, I'm always looking for, I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for the roadmap. Like I want to find the researcher, storyteller, Christian, lover of all people, fighter of the resistance. I want to find the blueprint of who's ahead of me believing what I believe in and doing it really well. Mm-hmm. But there's not really a blueprint sometimes. From, like
we're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
We're all trying to figure it out.
I don't get to copy anybody. And so it's hard.
Yeah.
It's still hard. But here's a thing that has changed everything for me. I belong to me. So even when I feel alone and I wonder like who's my crew and who are my people, I belong to me for sure, for the first time in my life. The problem is I was so shocked to learn in the research that the opposite of belonging is fitting in. Because fitting in is assessing a group of people and thinking, who do I need to be? What do I need to say? What do I need to wear? How do I need to act? And changing who you are. And true belonging never asks us to change who we are. It demands that we be who we are. Because if we fit in because how we've changed ourselves, that's not belonging. That's not belonging because you betrayed yourself for other people. And that's not sustainable.
Yeah, you start to lose yourself.
You start to lose yourself, exactly what you said. And so I think it's hard. You have to show up as who you are.
Give life a chance. Because I think I often rushed trying to hit benchmarks. Gotta do this on this schedule and this on this schedule, and if I don't, it'll be too late and all of that. And so I would really say give life a chance. In all my rushing, I think I sometimes did things too quick because I was so afraid the opportunity wouldn't come again. And so, listen, as I look back at it, and I'm a lot older than you, and so the beauty of getting old is so great. It's so great. I'm probably the only woman in the world who says that, but it's so great. And what's so great about it is it's like living in this beautiful data-driven world where you have all the evidence now. You're like, okay, this theory has now been upheld, or I've now talked to enough people, and you're starting to lose people, and you're watching your friends lose their parents, and so your friends are getting sick sometimes, and you're getting this different sort of view on life. But I just, first of all, now David Kessler put it beautifully, like we were talking to each other on a birthday, I'm like, he taught me, like, I just got another birthday. Like, this is, everyone's like, oh, don't talk to me about it. I'm like, talk to me about it. I just got another birthday. Like, I am so happy. So there is I now feel a usefulness in me. I don't feel so hemmed in by like, I got to do this and I got to get this and I got to get married and I got to have the kids and I'm like, this is so fun. I feel like I'm a 58-year-old woman trapped in like a 29-year-old I'm trapped in I'm a 29-year-old entrepreneur trapped in a 58-year-old woman's body. And so I do need a little bit more sleep, but I love getting older. I mean, talk to me when the hip starts going and everything actually has started going. I'm like a car where you're like, do we trade this in for parts or do we like keep fixing it? But I have to say that in line with that, of give life a chance, for the first time I am giving life a chance. Like interesting opportunities come up, I'm like, let's do it. My team's like, are you sure that feels like a risk? I'm like, at this age, is anything a risk? And I'm not that, it's like I'm 90.
Right.
But like, again,
let's go for it.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel as though, and even then, I mean, I was talking to Lisa Bilyeu, a friend of both of ours. She interviewed someone who's 103, just wrote a book. And I looked at Lisa and I said, I want to be 103, write a book. Judith Herman, she was 82 and she wrote that. I mean, I see the power of that wisdom. And I love getting older. And like, nobody critiques you for staying home on Saturday. I'm like, well, that's where old people are supposed to be. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's where I need to be. So I just put a blanket on my knees. Like, I'm going to be so good at 90. Like, I'm going to be the best 90 you've ever seen.
That's
I'm going to rock
amazing.
it. So I love it. And I feel like every day is that I'm actually allowing myself to be excited about opportunities because I'm no longer living to what other people want for me. And so I think I'm sort of living in my humanist heaven right now.